Welcome back, everybody. This is Amiga Arise, and this is our next episode with a great friend of ours that you've already heard, Miss Pam Lowe. She needs no introduction, but we'll give her a little introduction.
A proper introduction.
She was with us last time on the Art of Friendship, and we just gathered so many beautiful nuggets. Okay. And we're excited for this one. Haley, do you want to tell us or tell everybody a little bit about?
Yes, we're so excited. We are continuing our season on the art of daily rhythms. And so far we have left off with one on creativity with our beautiful leader, Charisse. And that was such a beautiful conversation we've had with her, really inspiring and just simple also. And then Kelly, our friend Kelly, the art of discipleship. And that was an amazing, incredible conversation, kind of going in the same lane of what we're talking about today with just being with other people and conversing with them and having deepen and real relationship with others. And so today we are doing a special episode called The Art of Conversation. And in this episode, we really want to get deep on, we have our friend Pam here, who is our teacher. Yes, because she is the ultimate conversationalist. Yeah, and one of the most present people I know in real-time conversation with any person. And so we really want to touch on our interpersonal skills and how they're really important just in everyday life with those whom you do life with those you encounter each day, whether stranger or friend. And so, we just want to jump in and just kind of get going on what does the art of conversation mean. And I had this idea, even though Pam is going to teach us something so beautiful, of conversation is all about just being present in a non-anxious way and in a very intentional way, including your body expression, your eye contact, your mood, how you follow up, how you stay attentive within conversation and build relationship that way. So it's a beautiful little episode we have here. So Pam, we're just so excited to have you on.
Thank you. I love being here. Love talking with you. The art of conversation is very easy with Haley and Priscilla. Yeah. And I love what you just said in your intro about how you see the art. And it made me think of how oftentimes when people are in a conversation, the downfall is that rather than really listening to the other person, they're thinking about what they're going to say next, rather than being cued by what the person they're listening to is saying. Wow. And that's really one of the keys to the art.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. One thing I want to point out with Pam is her soothing voice. Oh. We've talked about this before. I think even last time you were on, we talked about how you could be a voiceover, audible author for books and stuff, because she has such a very illuminating and pleasant, soothing voice where it's just I could just sit back and listen. So I encourage you guys to just sit back and listen to this person of wisdom.
Yeah. I shall try to keep that in mind.
Just don't change your voice.
Try not to get too boisterous. When you write your next books, I think keep me in mind.
Okay.
To read the audio.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, I'd love to do something like that.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. I think a radio host, talk show voice.
Oh
that's what I hear, the K-Love, very soft, soothing jazz.
New career on the horizon.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
But go for it. Share whatever you want to begin with.
Oh, okay. I was hoping to respond to a question, but if I could, I'd like to say that I'm going to give you a glimpse of what I'd like to talk about.
Right.
So, those are a few key words regarding the art of conversation. And that involves, well, first of all, I think the whole purpose of conversation is to connect with others. And yes, we have other kinds of conversations. It might be informative. It might be explanatory. But when we're talking about the art of conversation, I think it involves these main things. And we may at the end say, oh yeah, and then there's these other things too, but it's all about connecting. So in order to connect, we need to be curious. We need to be able to listen well. We need to show that we care about what the person is saying and about the person that we're talking with.
Right.
And we need to have some really good questions.
Yeah.
Really good ones. Questions that go deeper than the surface or superficial.
Right.
And also questions that might cause the other person to feel like, oh, well, I'm going to have to be kind of transparent to answer this question. And when we ask those type of questions, we need to be prepared to also answer those type of questions. Because it may very well happen that you ask someone maybe a risky kind of a question or a deep type of question. And they may in turn then, after they answer, say, and if they're good at conversation, they'll say, well, how about you? So it's not to be one-sided. Conversation should not be one-sided.
Right.
The very nature of the art of it is to have it be like a pickleball game. They used to say a tennis match, but it's a pickleball game.
Pickleball.
And you toss a ball and they hit it back and you toss, and then it gets into a rhythm. But I will tell you this observation in life that I don't want to say the majority, but a lot of people do not know how to have a good conversation.
Yeah.
And how often have you maybe been in this situation where you come away and it's like, wow, I know I've learned a lot about that person that I was just talking with, but they don't know anything about me after that conversation.
Yeah.
And the good thing, if you're thinking that, is, wow, well, you did a good job of having a conversation.
Yeah.
In that you showed interest, you learned a lot about the person, but they just really don't know
reciprocate it.
how to. Because most people do enjoy being asked questions, and they like to talk about themselves, not in a self-centered kind of a way, but they appreciate having questions asked of them.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes in conversation, it gets boring, superficial, how are you? What'd you do this morning? I don't know, some of the
How was your
typical
week?
things.
Yeah.
How was your
are
week?
you?
Like very general. How are you? What, like there's not, don't ever ask anyone that question. It's a meaningless question. But so, yeah, I've had that experience, maybe more than the average person, because I try to do above average conversations.
Yeah.
So your average conversations, you come away with, not much, and maybe no desire to ever connect with that person again. And I feel with the art of conversation, you should come away where, like, with both people feeling like, I really want to connect again with that person. I want to have a conversation with that person again. Or they come away feeling better because they had a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And I was given a really good piece of advice. I was going to a class reunion, and an advice was spoken where she said, I was talking with someone about, I'm going to be going to this reunion. I really like to prepare ahead, and I like to be really specific with sharing a memory with people that I see there, sharing a memory of them, something that I liked about them. I try to do something affirming. And so I was explaining that to my friend, and she said, people don't remember so much what you say, but how you make them feel after a conversation. And so I added that to, and I realized my motivation in going prepared and sharing a memory or sharing an affirmation of something that I really appreciated about them way back when, or, whenever I last saw them. That really did what she was saying. Because when you tell someone, and it's not like just fluffy compliments, it's legitimate special things. And that does, if they
like
had
an
said that to
intentional
me,
moment rather than, oh, last time I saw you, we were having fun. It's so general, but if it's a very specific memory.
Yeah. And it's kind of risky to do that in that kind of setting.
Yeah.
And, but it's really worth it. But I was at a reunion recently and I came away with like, wow, I would have loved to hear if they remembered something about me, that was significant. But also a lot of times people just don't remember much. But I remember a lot, so I bring it up and they go, oh, yeah. Oh, oh, yeah. Sometimes they remember it not exactly the way I remember it, but that's where I got into some of the risky questions.
What are some of those risky questions?
Let me think of if I should say.
By risky, you mean opening the door to like more vulnerable, transparent conversations.
Like it would be along the lines of, like if remembering a conversation that you had back in the day, or remembering something that you did together, or remembering certain circumstances. And then, some of those circumstances can border on being embarrassing or, things like that. I don't bring up embarrassing things, but I do bring up things that I think, man, you should have remembered that. You were my first boyfriend. And you should remember that you gave me a ring.
Oh.
Promise ring
like or no, not
just like a jewelry, like that was like a gift that he gave you. Yeah,
you never know.
So, anyway,
I love that, Pam.
Yeah.
So you shared the 4. It was 4, like connect.
So it's connect, be curious, be caring, and have good questions. And I have some questions that I would recommend.
Let's hear it.
So shall we get to that?
Yeah. We want to hear.
And we should answer them.
Yeah. Pam is like the queen of curious and just good intent questions. Like she's inspired me, and I've learned a lot from Pam in terms of like being attentive and present in conversation, like in continuing that. Because I think sometimes the stigma is we get in conversation with someone and then either like somehow we tune out, like we think about other things that come into our mind, and then we're not present there. Like it's more mindless talk happening. And Pam has taught me also like how to press in, how to keep your mind engaged. Because usually when we're in conversation, we have good intent of hearing them, of listening to them. At least we try. And then sometimes we just go blank, or I don't know, think of, like I said, mindless talk. But she's given me like good cues, such as questions that also like integrate your mind still. Like, hey, you're asking this person questions because you want to get to know them. And it's also good talk. It's not just like, how are you? Like the stereotypical American question that you ask, but it's more so saying, no, I am talking to this beautiful person like Priscilla, and I'm getting to know her heart in the way that the Lord has, in a moment over coffee, and a podcast like we're doing right now. It's just simply getting to know the person. And I think it's just so powerful, because I've noticed, I meant to tell you this too, me and Pam get coffee every now and then and just talk. But I've noticed how in my conversations with other people, how I'm more so an introvert. I can lean an extroversion, but I'm more like at heart an introvert. But I have been noticing I have kept conversation going with like strangers and random people. And like extroverts are always just like, I can talk to anyone.
Yeah.
Like I have sensed that, like easily been able to do that. It's
like
not
you've grown in that.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not me. So like, I need to push myself. Like it's just more become organic and very natural in it, but there's a genuine heart to actually get to know someone because they're worth getting to know their story.
Yeah.
That's something she's taught me.
Yeah. And I think that introverts make really great conversationalists, especially aided with a little bit of confidence in the power of asking good questions. And extroverts can err on the side of being talkative and having no problem being talkative, but there's no real quality to the conversation.
Oh, that's a good word.
Yeah. And so I really like to have quality conversations.
Right.
Of course, I'm not 100%, but it is something that I've honed, let's say. At first subconsciously, but then it started being pointed out to me. And having conversations like this, it's like, okay, I have to kind of break it down and go, what is it? Years ago, I was asked to talk on some things about this, and I had to really sit down and break it down. It's like, what is it that has become kind of like second nature?
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with questions that you ask when you first meet someone.
Okay.
Or early on, or I find, wow, there's some people that I'm with that I've known for a long time, but I didn't know to do these things back then. And I'm just now asking some of these things. But let's say you're in a situation, you're meeting someone for the first time, and I like to try to remember the name. That's really important to remember a person's name. So we might be introduced. I might, just start talking to someone, and what's your name? And I always ask what their last name is. They'll say, they'll say their name, like Priscilla would say Priscilla, and then I'd say, well, what's your last name? And it helps me, and I always say this, what's your last name? It helps me to remember you by your whole name, not just your first name.
Yeah.
And that's also, you're actively looking at the person, you're having an exchange right away, you're connecting right away. Tell me what your last name is. And they're repeating their first name.
Yeah.
And sometimes I try to kind of picture their name above their head, or, kind of picture the name so I can, you have to like play with this a few times. You repeat their name and don't do it like a memorized script, but it comes naturally to me. Then the next thing is, it's like, okay, what's your last name? And if someone tells me their last name and it strikes me some way, like, for example, it might be an Italian last name. Well, that's what my last name was. And it's like, oh, tell me about your people, or something, tell me about your name, what part of Italy are they from? Or other types of names. For example, you told me your last name and I said, oh, I know people from that country. Or do you know people from that country of origin?
Yeah.
And then this is where connection really begins. If I know anyone else with that last name, I ask them if they know that person. And I say, oh, I knew someone when I lived such and such, or right here. Are you from here locally? Are you related to the other Smiths? And and if so often they are.
Yeah.
95% of the time,
For Pam,
she can
it is.
connect
Yeah.
someone to someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's uncanny. And it's really just shows over and over how connected really we are.
Yeah.
And this doesn't happen to me just in my own community. It happens everywhere I go. I could be out of state. I could be, in a completely, I've had it happen to me in another country.
Wow.
Crazy. So that's a major one. Ask the last name and then go with what comes to mind. Either something you may or may not know about their last name. Like, ask them to tell you about it. What does that name mean? Or what?
Like, where is it from? If you
Where's
don't
it
know,
from? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are your people from? It's really fun. People like usually talking about that.
Yeah.
And if it's someone that's married, I always want to find out their maiden name too, if that comes up. It's like, but married name, maiden name, whatever the name, go a little farther. And then the next magical question is, well, where'd you spend your childhood? And that's really interesting to me. It also provides more avenues of connection. People usually like to talk about where they grew up or where they're from. And if I know anything about the town that they bring up or anyone that lives in the vicinity, I will mention them. And so often they know them.
Yeah. Oh
And-
my gosh. If you're in South OC, Pam knows you.
And if you've lived somewhere a long time, that'll happen. But really, if I'm out of town, I do the same thing. And very often, connection.
Awesome.
Okay, then I ask, so what brought you to this area? Do you live here now? And what was the reason that you moved here as a kid? What brought you to wherever we are? And that is always a really interesting answer to me, because then they'll talk a little bit more about their family. It's like, well, my dad got a job here, and so we moved here. It's like, well, what year was that? Okay, the years, I'm very careful because I don't like people asking me about years, and I might have to lie about them. But
Untrue. She does not lie about anything.
I feel like it though sometimes. They will, the years are really helpful because then you can hone in on like, oh my gosh, this is somebody I went to high school with. I just didn't recognize them or their name.
Oh, that's funny.
Or, oh wow, we lived in the same town at the same time. We're around the same age. Did you go to such and such a school? Often ask about their schools. And I was having this kind of conversation with someone one time, and it turned out that we lived, as he was telling me his timeline, it ended up like we lived in a neighborhood next to each other in one town, and next to each other in another neighborhood in another town.
Wow.
And then we didn't know each other until we were in our 20s.
Wow.
How funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all about kind of
Small
going
world.
through like, well, where did you go to elementary school, or where'd you go to high school?
Yeah.
And then of course the really zeroing in on, if you're trying to figure out how old someone is, ask them when they graduated from high school, and bingo, you've got it. But some people won't answer you, especially if they're of a certain age.
So be wary of age.
Yeah. And then, and then it's, so those are the very zeroing in on things that you have in common that have nothing to do with what kind of work they do. Often, if you're at a gathering and people, hi, how are you? What kind of work do you do? So what? Big deal. The what kind of work people do, some people don't want to talk about that, in the setting. These things are more interesting to me than what I don't like to be pigeonholing people into their profession or their status.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I like hearing their story, kind of going back.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in people's story. So if they bring up something, like if they do bring up their job, then you can go into well, what's your story on that? Like, how'd you get interested in this profession, or how did you end up in this? And did you go to school to learn how to do this? And, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So my point is to ask the next question, not to make the person feel like they're being grilled.
Yeah.
You have to read the room. You have to read the person, be sensitive to if they're kind of backing off or if they're not interested in answering. I only go down this road if they show interest and appreciation of the conversation.
Right.
There's a lot of questions that I don't ask because I might sense it's not the right place for them to talk about this, or I'm not interested in.
You're not interested, or they're not
I'm
interested?
not interested because I can tell they're going to talk. They're going to talk too much about that, and it's not. I have a sense of where to go in connecting. What's my interest in connecting with this person? And there's a variety of reasons why we might be wanting to connect with someone. Not that we're trying to get them to be our best friend. It just depends on what the setting is. It might be, you're at a gathering and you see someone's not having a conversation with anyone, or there's something about them that you just want to go talk to them, or you want to practice this, practice the art of conversation.
Yeah.
And so recently there was a gathering. It was here, and I chatted with someone that I hadn't met before. There was a lot of people I hadn't met before, and all I did was, well, what's your name and what's your last name? And in this one situation, I had just talked to someone with the same last name as this person, because I had asked both of them, what's your last name? And so then I pointed across the room and said, well, do you know so-and-so over there? Their last name's the same as yours. And she says, really? No, I don't. And so I introduced them, and they had a great conversation, trying to find Ancestry.com and see if they're related or something,
That'd be so funny.
So there's so many funny stories I could tell. I went with the youth group when one of my daughters was in high school. We went on a youth group trip to go whitewater rafting.
Wow.
Up on the Sacramento River, I think. We were up like in Placerville and going to go whitewater rafting.
Fun.
And we're sitting around, it was outdoor dining at the camp, and I was seated with the staff of the camp, the guides for the whitewater rafting. And there were about 6 or 8 of us at a picnic table. And I found myself just, we're going around introducing ourselves. And I started asking those questions. And I knew someone that every single person at that table knew.
Stop.
That was probably the biggest one. And none of them were from the same town.
Wow.
I can't even think of how that worked. But
We should have called this the art of connection.
Yes. Yes. The connecting heart. So yeah, I really do have a heart for it, and you'll be known to be genuine or not if you practice these things. You really have to be genuine about it.
Yeah.
Um,
And well,
Go
I was
ahead.
like, I'm just getting a thought in terms of we might have hit similar topics last time we're talking about friendship, but it's like a connecting heart, or the art of conversation, the art of connecting, in terms of like biblically, isn't that what we're called to do, right? Because having superficial conversations will only get you so far. I'm being remembering moments where I think I've always been a little more leaning towards checking in with people and having coffee dates, and Haley and I do those, and I try to do those with various friends, and I've been that way since high school or college. And I remember distinctly with one friend, we would get together and we get our cup of coffee and sit down. She's like, "So how are you?" And I'm like, I remember it irked me. I would get really irritated by like, "So how are you doing?" And it felt so superficial.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'd get past it and there would be some genuine questions there. But I'm even thinking about, the moments that we get glimpses of Jesus sitting down and having a conversation, that they were very intentional.
Yes.
And got to the heart of the person rather than the circumstances, right? We can think about the women at the well, the woman in adultery, the blind man, right? Like rarely did he address the circumstance before addressing the heart, and then was like, okay, now go and live your life, right? But I know we don't get we didn't get the totality of those 3 years that he was in ministry, but how many moments he sat down with people and had the heart to connect with them. And that's what our faith calls us to, that we're not just doing it just for like, oh, this is a cute thing to do. Yes, it's nice to connect, but there's an intentionality behind it that you've really honed in on, and you're going above and beyond by not just being the example who does it, but also teaching in the art form of why this matters.
I'm so glad that you shifted us to that point, because the example of the Lord is so important. And I also wanted to go into listening and having conversation with the Lord too. Kind of leading up to that. But the Lord had some things going for him. For one thing, he was all knowing.
Yeah.
So he would know things about the people that he was talking with. And that is what really will open someone up. So, that is something to really always be prayerfully on your mind as you are interacting with others, even to be praying as you're talking with them. Lord, internally just asking the Lord, what should I ask them? How shall I respond? What's on your heart, Lord, for this person? Do you have a word for this person? And that's where the boldness and the risk comes in, because but the Lord may be gifting you in that way to really speak to the heart of someone. So that is really, really vital, and something that has to be honed as well. But you also made me think of, I know a really special friend that she would ask, how's your heart? If we hadn't seen each other for a while.
Dang. That's so simple, but like,
how's your heart?
Touching.
And it really does shift the way someone answers that from how are you to how's your heart?
I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. And I only learned that over the last few years, but I really love that. And it's a very intimate question, really.
Yeah, that is.
And you will get intimate answers. So what I just shared, that's like initially in a gathering, randomly, how to, my friend who's like this as well, she knows the other people that I don't know. Actually, we know a lot of the same people, and we both were raised in the same community, and just, we know a lot of people. And so we'll observe each other. And I observed her recently. I go, yeah, you're working the room. And we'll tease each other that way. But we're just both so interested. And we recognize people. And, she recognized someone. I took her over. It's like, yeah, that's so-and-so. Yeah. And you know people they're related to, And so there's that. But there is the most incredible part of the art of conversation is to bring your spiritual into it, your spirituality into it, your spiritual gifts, and your loving heart, the heart of Jesus, into the conversation. And those things will affect, when I was talking about how you made them feel, that is big in that, because they may feel like a number of things. They may not have had a conversation about where the Lord was brought into it in the way that you bring him in. So, like, this is my friend that I want to tell you about this friend, you know. So that's really vital.
Yeah.
And then the other part, as far as conversation with the Lord, that's a whole other big thing. So maybe sometime we'll talk about listening and talking with the Lord and the questions that we can ask him that he does answer.
Yeah. I think that easily begins with, you said earlier, how when you're talking with someone and asking like, how's your heart? Or just along the way in conversation, really just praying and asking the Lord, like, what do you want me to ask next? Or what do you want them to know next? That already is that invitation to converse with God and have his heart be present throughout your encounter.
Yes.
And like Jesus, like every table setting he had or conversation that he had always centered around the heart of the Father. Like no conversation was without the presence of the Lord. Jesus is God, but you know what I'm saying, like him being attentive to the Spirit and really opening, like you said, opening the hearts of another person despite like their chains or their walls that were up, and truly like knowing them deeply, knowing them in love, knowing them in truth.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying like that is already like conversation with God already. If you think about it, like in communion with other people and sharing with other people and doing life with other people, that is already happening in the midst of that. And it's so simple and it's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really important along these lines that it's not that the person that you're talking with doesn't feel like you have an agenda for why you're talking to them because you just want to get to this.
Right.
Or that kind of thing. And so there's some finesse with it. And there's also the thought that, you know, sometimes this is just a first time that might open the door to that person wanting to talk some more another time. You know, it depends on the scenario. But people can sense if there's an agenda.
Yeah.
And that or when I was going through the timeline, so to speak, of my life, of when it was pointed out to me that I was asking a lot of questions, and this person, I asked a few questions, and then he said, "What is this? 20 questions?" And I said, "Well, no, But I became self-conscious about it after that. It's like, oh, I guess I didn't know. I didn't know I was asking questions, let alone that it might have been bothering. I guess I wasn't reading the room at the point.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And I never go in with an agenda except to be friendly and to, truly be, care, interested, curious,
Right.
and for fun,
Yeah.
to have a fun conversation. I like to have fun.
Yeah.
I like to have fun conversations. I like to laugh in the conversations. But then there's those poignant moments, that can come from it. And, and you don't want to rush through it.
Yeah.
Either.
I feel like you walk away with like a greater depth of knowing that person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if it stays superficial, it's easier to forget those topics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Versus if you got to know something intimate about them, not their deep, darkest moments or traumas, but just a deeper knowledge of who they are. Definitely those are the times where I'll walk away and think about that conversation a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I'll bring them into my prayer, right? Because I'm like, oh, they shared this part of their story. Maybe it was, some challenge or some triumph or whatever. And it invites you into that knowing, right?
Yes.
Like you were mentioning, like Jesus already knew something about them. So because he's supreme God, like he didn't have to ask to know, but he brought that to light to remind us to be on the lookout, to know people, to get to know them.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the beauty the finesse that you have is God wired you that way. You've been that way for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I was a major listener for, I would say, when I think of myself in high school, I listened a lot. I can picture myself, sitting and listening. And I had a really excellent circle of friends. The girls that I hung out with, we're close to this day. They, for the most part, were very extroverted. And I was the quiet one of the group.
That's a shocker.
And we had so much fun. I learned a lot from them about being confident about, conversations and stuff. As far as asking questions, that took a while. I think of myself in college. I think I probably started asking questions in conversation, finding some interesting questions, but it really didn't come about until I was out of college. And I was married, still am. Came back to my community.
We love you, Dave.
Came back to my community where I was raised, or, where I'd lived all my life, just about. And there was someone that we ran into each other. We hadn't seen each other since high school, and we were at the same church, suddenly at the same church. And she was a really introverted personality, really shy. And she said to me one day, "I would really like to get to know you better. Would you come over for lunch?" And I was thrilled. Yes. I was, at the beginning of a new season and needed to reacquaint or get acquainted with new friends. And she not only invited me to come over, but someone else that she thought she would like to get to know and that she thought I would enjoy getting to know.
Wow.
And that inspired me. It inspires me to this day. And I thanked her for that recently, how it had affected me. And so that's one simple thing to cultivate in our lives, like you're saying, going out to coffee, being intentional about getting together with your friends, because it's not all about the new people or the unknowns. It's about keeping health in the cultivated relationships you have, like the friendship garden. You've got to cultivate that and feed it and nurture it and appreciate the blooms that are already in your garden, and asking really key questions of the friends, especially how's your heart, But the thing that it's reminding me of another thing, one of my things, and it's just the way my head works. But I usually remember the first time I met someone and the last time I saw them. So that's one of the things that I do, let's say, when I'm around someone that I used to know, or haven't seen someone for a long time, or at a reunion. Our class happened to have had a lot of reunions. I got to hone some things in those awkward situations to make it fun. So I will tell someone, through somewhere in the conversation, or just to start the conversation too. And I always think, wow, I'd love it if I heard from if someone said to me, "Gosh, I remember the first time I met you," and I'd say, "Really? When was that? How was that?" Because that's usually the people don't remember. And it's always affirming of them, and it's always, my point is to make them feel good about that. They're important to me enough to remember when I met them and or when I last saw them.
Yeah.
And so that's another kind of fun thing to do. And it also might bring up something where you can go toward the heart. Like, gosh, when I saw you last, there was something really hard going on in your life. How's that going? Or when I saw you last, you were really excited about such and such. You know, it can take you a lot of places.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
I have a question on. It goes both ways, so maybe it's a two-part question. But when you are the one asking questions, you talked about it earlier. Like sometimes people miss the mark, even though you're doing a great job having conversation. They miss the mark of getting to know you and having that be mutual and reciprocated. What would you, if someone's dealing with that sort of tension or conflict? Like I just keep trying, and even if it's one person or many other people. How would you encourage someone in that space? Like, it's hard, but it's good.
That's really good. And I need to try this, but you just gave me an idea.
Perfect.
Because, this is what I need to be more conscious of. It rarely happens because that scenario rarely happens. And it's only that way because through the years and also through my business that I have to immediately build a rapport with people for my business. And I transfer, it kind of goes back and forth, interpersonal, friendly type of conversations. It's become easier and easier to build a rapport. Like you saw me talking to that man on the porch.
Yeah.
And, I was pointing out things that I was noticing that he was working on and asking him to tell us about what he was working on. And at first I apologized to him. It's like, I'm sorry, have we been talking too loud over here? Have we been interrupting you working on what are you working on? And then I said, what are you working on? And then he told us. It's like, well, and where do you do that?
Yeah.
And that was 30 seconds of interaction that could have led to other things because he could have asked us a question back. He didn't.
Yeah.
Which was fine because we were leaving. But so I think what I would do in that scenario, I would stop, I would pause, and I would go, I am so sorry. Have I been dominating the conversation and not giving you an inch to breathe or to think? I am so sorry. I'm just so interested in what you have to say, but I'm wondering, is there anything that I've asked you or have brought up that, like, hey, you're kind of wondering what I might have to say about that? And do it in kind of a joking, self-deprecating kind of way.
Yeah.
That might be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like
just
that.
a way to like bring it back.
Bring it around.
Make
I
light of the fact that you've been asking most of the questions.
Yeah. I will often stop myself very often. I try to be sensitive this way. And I think this is a key element to the art of conversation. And that is to really watch for over talking.
Yeah.
And so if I get a sense like, because I can totally over talk. You can, you guys have witnessed it. I will try to be really sensitive about that. And I'll even just stop and say, oh my gosh, I think I'm over talking. Please, I'm so sorry. And then they'll either agree or they'll disagree. And I'll just say, now you talk. I did that to you.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, now you talk. And really, I want to hear you. So now you talk. Because you are good at asking questions.
Yeah.
And so then I'll go on to some more stories. And so that'll happen. If you're talking with someone that is a good conversationalist, and you're used to, as I am, asking the questions and kind of keeping it going and getting it into meaningful territory. When you meet an equal, so to speak, I have to be really careful and apologetic and just like, here, now you take it. Keep the ball in your court for a while. Do not pitch it back to me or hit it back. Do not serve. Now,
that's great.
Tell me some more. Tell me what you think about that.
Yeah.
I think there's also like in that scenario or whatnot, there's also, for me, like I like listening a lot, and I lean more introverted, but obviously when I'm comfortable, like I can be very extroverted and engage in the same way. There's also a certain point of where you just have to have courage, even if it's like a small thing or just illuminating conversation of just talking about whatever we're talking about, or it's something deep. Like I opened up to you about something deeper, and I was like, I just have to say it. Like I just need to ask this because I look to you or just to other people for encouragement, for lifting us up, and that's what the body is called to do. In that same way, like you are to share your heart, your story, and it's also to be reciprocated in terms of I also get to listen to yours. And there's a certain point where I've learned like people, they can't read your mind, right? So there's certain times where you do have to have that courage to say, I am going to risk sharing this. And hopefully it is in the right moment. And usually I would say it is if you have a good trusting friend who, even though they might be talking more or they're sharing something else and you need to switch gears and say, I really have something on my heart that I want to share. Or I just have a question, or I have whatever it may be, like just coming up with the faith and the courage to be like, I'm also worth being known. Not to say another person's negating that, but it's just to say, I have to tell you something. Like, and you'd be surprised like how often like she was so willing to hear, like more than willing to hear. And she also engaged and asked questions back about what we were talking about. Yeah. So I think there's that also pivotal point of just, you can also have the courage, even a little bit, to just say, hey, I have to share something. And most of the time with, like I said, a good trusting friend, it's received so well. And you also, not just for the feeling of feeling better, but you feel more known and there's more trust and depth of relationship that grows in that space. Yeah.
That's very true. I have some friends that we don't get to see each other very often, let's say. And we literally will take notes of what each other are saying, because it's so valuable. I mean, you get to a point, I'm at you get to a point where you need to stop and realize how valuable the people are in your life. Like the Lord brings such incredible people into our lives, and we're really valuing that. One friend in particular who I don't get to see as often as we used to. So we literally, like, wait a minute, I got to write that down, what you just said. I got to write that down. Yeah, I got to go do that. Okay, pause, good. And then we're writing down, and then we follow up on it. And, I think that conversation along with friendship, it needs to be inspiring. I think. I come away so inspired by you guys. And that's one of the things I love about the art of conversation, because if it's done with the finesse, it'll be inspiring. My hope and prayer is for it to be inspiring.
I mean, Pam wrote down some notes last time you hung out with Haley.
Yes, I quoted what Haley wrote.
Or said out loud.
Yeah, what you said.
Oh my gosh, I'm on the record.
You're on the record.
I want to hear, but I just want to affirm you. One of the coolest things about you is that you do write it down. Here at Testimony Life, I call you our scribe.
Yeah.
And I don't think we use that word so often anymore, but it's like in Old Testament times, right? Like they were scribes, right? The reason why we're able to have the stories we have for the New Testament is because the scribes are writing down stories.
Yeah.
And I think within that, we've forgotten the art of scribing, the art of writing, for the memento, the memorabilia of it, not just creative writing is gorgeous and beautiful, and Haley is a walking testament of that. And we've had conversations on that on this podcast, and we'll continue to have more. But just scribing, because in the art of conversation can be something artistic in the way we've said something without even thinking about it, because that's how kind of like poetry comes to mind, songwriters, all the things, but rarely do we think about jotting it down. And so I think that that's just something that you've honed in, and the fact that you actually follow up with what they said, I think that's something that I need to walk away with. Like, take note of what people have said. And when it matters to them, that it should matter to me as a form of, hey, not only am I praying for you, but hey, I thought about what you said last night, or it made me think about this in a certain way. And it illuminates something for that person. They're like, wow, they thought about me that deeply later on, that they brought up my exact words.
Yeah, it's thank you for that. You're making me think of a myriad of things on that topic of scribing things, writing things down. And I even have, about 15 years ago, I went through a time where I was having treatment, chemo, and they told me, you're going to get brain fog from the chemo. And I was determined to not get, it's like, no, I'm not going to get brain fog, and I'm not going to lose my hair. Okay, I was right on 50%. I did not get brain fog.
Wow.
Because I was determined to remember everything that the Lord did through this circumstance. Wow. So I started journaling every day. And my journal, I had to type it because one effect that I had from the medication was that my small motor skills, my handwriting went really messy. So, and I used to write in a journal, hit and miss, but I started typing it. And kept a document on my computer. And it evolved into keeping my journal became sort of like a log of what I did that day, because I wanted to remember that as time went on. And I wanted to remember everything that I learned from the Lord through it. Wow. So I kind of kept those kind of intermingled, but eventually I separated them. So now I have a handwritten journal of listening to the Lord and what he's speaking to me and what I'm praying. And then I have the log that I still type out. Been doing it consistently, daily, just about all this time. And it has honed something. And not only if you were to look at my screen on my computer, there's folders that have my journal, my phone call conversations with my friends that I don't live near. I'll put the key things that we talk about, so that when we talk again, I can reflect back on what we had just talked about. I have a good memory, but my memory, because I have kept such a detailed journal, when I look back at it, it's like, how could I have forgotten that? I thought I had a really good memory. But now when I look at the record, it's like, oh, yeah, there were these other details too. So I think it's really good for our memory to do that. And it's amazing to look back and get blessed again by what the Lord has done and what the Lord has said and direction that he gives. So I really believe in writing things down. And the challenge is, how do you organize all that? So that can be another podcast.
The art of organizing your notes. Wow, I didn't know that part of your story, Pam. Thanks for sharing. What an incredible way to honor the Lord in the midst of pain. Yeah. And thankfully, I don't want it to seem pathetic. I really didn't have a painful experience, which was, you get it's a little weird, but it's scary and it's not something that we choose for ourselves. Yeah. But the Lord told me that he would be with me through it all, and he sure was. He's Emmanuel. He is with us. Yeah. And so it's amazing to read back through all of that. And I'm so glad that I did, because so much of that would have been lost to my memory. I didn't get the brain fog because I kept working, and I kept my brain active and engaged and
intentional.
Yeah.
And a lot of those kind of things are what I apply kind of across the board too. And so it is why I remember the last time I saw someone.
Yeah.
I think probably, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
a
know.
it's a muscle, just like anything else.
Yeah.
I think we forget that, right? Like,
And the cool thing is when you've written down everything, and this is another thing. I don't vent in my journal, and I edit it I self-edit as I'm going along. I wouldn't want anyone to ever be offended by something that I wrote, and so I don't write people's confidences. I don't write highly emotional or angry. I don't vent in my journal. I might make a reference so I remember, oh yeah, that was a hard experience, but I don't do any of that. And people that do vent in their journals, my advice is write your venting on a piece of paper and then burn it. Don't even crumple it for the trash. Burn it. Shred it.
therapeutic sense of like, you got it out, now leave it.
I heard a great, Graham Cook recommends this, and he says to make 2 columns, write it out in 2 columns, write all the things that are going wrong or all your venting. And then in the second column across from it, write God's promise to you regarding that circumstance. And then tear off that part, shred it, and keep the promises.
Wow.
And the powerful thing about that is when you keep the promises, keep them in your journal. When you read those promises, you remember what he was promising you about.
Yeah.
Or without having the gory
reread.
details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I can just picture your like a room or like a closet in your house or an office filled,
I have a whole room
filled with journals,
Yeah.
boxes of your notes.
Yeah, I do have.
What a gift to leave as
Yeah, a
your form of legacy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably will need to go through and edit it.
No, leave it so that when, it's found and people want to create a movie or something, they have all the details there.
Life.
A documentary.
Life.
Oh my goodness.
What are some like closing points, or what have we
I
not
was
touched
just
on
looking.
yet?
Okay. I have some closing points. So, I mentioned to ask the next logical question, just things that come to mind, flow of consciousness. Part of the purpose of that is to find common ground. Finding common ground with someone or some familiarity is really powerful. And then maybe in that conversation or another one, you can try to go deeper, saying things that you noticed. Like, I noticed you have a really tender heart about such and such. And then give a genuine affirmation, in quotes, like give something more about that. Wow, that you would be really good at going and volunteering at the, shelter or something. I don't know. Pray as you're talking for the Lord's direction. And show interest in talking again sometime. It's like, wow, this was so fun. I need to go. You do have to sometimes find a way of
Exiting.
parting or talking, working the room, going to the next person. And then say genuinely, like I have a list of people that I follow up with. It's like if I told them I'm going to call them,
Wow.
I do it. I might put it into my phone right away and get their contact info. And then the invite is what I call it, the invite. It's really an important thing. It's like my friend inviting me over because she wanted to get to know me better.
Yeah.
That was so powerful. And being bold sometimes to send a text or make a call and to follow up with someone that just has piqued your interest for some reason. You might detect there's a need that they have, or there might be something, an adventure that you're going to do with someone, or include them into your adventurous other friends. all kinds of things that could be involved in that reason that you're inviting them. And then, keep it casual, go for a walk at the harbor, go for coffee, have them over. I have people over to my house a lot. I know that, kind of the custom right now is to meet up somewhere, but have people into your place as much as you are comfortable with or have it available. And then I already mentioned, the eye contact, the read the room, please read the room. Don't over talk. Am I overwhelming you? Am I talking too much? Now it's your turn. Enough about me. And then, this is key to not over talking. And my husband has to remind me of this at times. It's like, cut out the minutia, the minute details, not necessary. And I pride myself in not being too bad at that. What you can tell me if I am or not.
I think that's a woman thing too.
Yeah, well, oh my gosh, no! I've heard plenty of men. It's like,
even
please,
men. Okay,
please. That is who cares.
Okay, I'm getting rid of that stereotype.
Don't need to know all the technical details of how that thing is put together.
Yeah.
How a car operates, why the moon is up tonight. I don't know. I don't need these scientific, mechanical, technical details. Do not build the clock, as they say. Just give me the bottom line. Bottom line. You can't talk like that to people, but I try to practice it. That's it. Except I do want to say something about my precious grandson.
Oh.
Because when I was kind of working on this, he was over, and I happened to have gotten out an old game that we had all this stack of cards. It had all these random questions on it, and he saw it there, and I started asking him questions, and he can read now, so he read some of the questions to me. Okay, so on the topic of questions, I do a lot of things with questions. I collect questions. I keep them in a file. That sounds eccentric, but I do, because I do things. I do a lot of gatherings. I do stuff. And I like to put a question under everyone's plate, a different question, or have a jar with questions in it. Da, 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 da. I'm going to fill you in on a little secret. If I have an agenda, so to speak, like at Christmas, and I invite a group, I will sometimes load the group with people that I know are going to answer. I want them to answer some specific questions because I want their testimony to come out in the group, but in a natural way. Like when they're asked, like at Christmas time, if they get the question of, tell about your best and your worst Christmas. And I know that their testimony is going to come out in that. Actually, that's my question. I like to get that question because my testimony comes out in it. Do you want to hear what it is, what my answer is? The worst Christmas was when I discovered there was no such thing as Santa Claus. But the best Christmas was in the season when I found out Jesus was real. And short and simple, but to the point of
but also so
sharing
inviting
the truth.
When someone is curious and
Yeah.
meeting you at that level of curiosity. It's like, well, tell me more about that, right?
And you can pepper or salt, not pepper.
Salt.
You can salt your conversation with purposeful
Yeah.
questions that do lead without the person feeling there's an agenda. But the questions with the children, speaking of questions, it was incredible conversations that we came up with, that we went into in doing this little game. And so in closing,
Turning gears.
Be a blessing. Really, seriously, be a blessing in your conversation. Think about, how can I bless this person? Not in I'm trying to think of a good example, like a corny kind of way, but that your intentionality would be of that person coming away feeling lighthearted or uplifted or positive in some way, and even parting with laughter. And so.
That's good, Pam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was fun talking with you guys.
Love it every time. Yeah.
Thanks
It
for
was a
having
treat.
me.
It was a joy.
Yeah.
We loved it. Would you would you like to pray us out? To pray.
To pray. Yes, I shall pray. Oh, Lord, thank you so much that you are the artist of conversation. Lord, thank you. Oh, thank you for the questions that you ask us and the answers that you give us. Thank you that you care about our hearts. And Lord, give us that for others. I ask for you to impart each one that's listening. You've already imparted this to Haley and Priscilla. But Lord, may we bring your joy to others through the art of conversation, being intentional for your purposes. And we pray all this in Jesus' name, your powerful, loving name. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was really fun, and I was looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Every time.
We're excited to release it.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah.
Adios.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
That's it for today, friend. We pray this episode has blessed, challenged, and encouraged you. Keep pressing in. God is right beside you. You are loved. To give us some love, you can like, follow, comment, and share this episode with a friend. This journey is better with an amiga. Adios.